bumps everywhere all the time. Professionally, how I became number one health and wellness coach in Australia and I finished and I literally collapsed. Straight to the hospital. They were trying to diagnose me and figure out what had gone wrong, and they couldn't really find what was going on. And all these different diagnoses, and it was like no one could really give me a straight answer. We find our path, and we find that the people come into our path. So once you've gone through enough of the journey and searching, I want to do what he's done for me to help return it to the universe and help others who are also seeking their answers.
Hey everyone, it's Joey from the Reality Practice Network. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned after the show and find out how you can work one-on-one with your show host as they guide you through this process of ascension. Until then, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Reality Practice Podcast. I am your host, Joey Kramer, and today's guest is Ria Mestiza. Ria was voted the number one health and wellness coach in Australia in 2021, a coach to ambitious high achievers who want to embody the health and confidence they desire. She is the founder of Fitsique Wellness and Performance and the host of Summon Your Superhuman podcast. Ria empowers people on how to maximize their untapped inner strength and potential, educating the benefits and techniques for implementing health and wellness in a viable way. She's a unique all-in-one practitioner. She specializes in remedial therapy, kinesiology, and energy-based modalities. With over 20 years experience in training and nutrition as a competitive athlete, Ria transforms her clients and speaks to audiences all over the world. And she's dedicated to impacting and inspiring a life beyond expectations. So without further delay, let's welcome the beautiful Ria Mestiza to the show. Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm well, Joey. Thanks for having me.
So excited to have you on here. I know we've been back and had to reschedule a couple times. Life happens, but we're finally getting to make this happen. And I'm excited to have you on. It's kind of two reasons I want to have you on the show today. One is so you can share your amazing journey with the viewers, how you transformed your life through self-mastery and the principles of self-mastery, and how it's possible for anyone to overcome their perceived flaws and truly achieve amazing things. And secondly, I wanted to announce to the world that you're premiering and joining us on the Reality Practice Network. You're going to have a new show coming out this month called Soul Path to Self-Mastery. And we're honored to have you on the network to share your knowledge and your wisdom with the world. So let's get right into it. I want to dive deep as much as we can get into with everything over the next hour. So let's just get right into it. How has your journey progressed over your lifetime? Where did you start from? And what was that path that took you to becoming the number one health and wellness coach in Australia? There had to be some bumps in the road.
Bumps everywhere all the time. Professionally, how I became number one health and wellness coach in Australia is overcoming those obstacles. From day dot, from the very moment I even finished my final exam. To become accredited. I was doing my exam, and I had this overwhelming pain that was just just brewing up. And I'm like, nope, got to finish. And I finished and I literally collapsed. And from that moment, I was straight to the hospital. They were trying to diagnose me and figure out what had gone wrong. And they couldn't really find what was going on, So it was a lot of bouncing from different specialists and all these different diagnoses, and it was like no one could really give me a straight answer. So that was a very frustrating 6 months, from being told, you have a hernia. So then I stopped training. Oh, you've got PCOS, or you've got this, or you're going to need surgery on your hip. And it's like, can someone please tell me what's going on so I can deal with this, please?
Wow.
And yeah, and then starting a business. So, I was in the corporate world prior to that. I had a very comfortable position, earning good money. And then now I'm going through pain on one side, and I don't know what's going on. And then on the other side, I'm starting a business. I've got to acquire clients and earn a living on my own. And so it was a very challenging first year on top of what would already be a normally challenging first year.
Now, when did all this take place? What year was this?
This was 2011 into 2012.
Okay. So about 10 years ago is when, kind of all hell broke loose for you. You're on this path, you've got your sights clearly, you know exactly what you want to do. And then boom, you get this obstacle, this wrench thrown into everything. So I just wanted to set the stage there. Now continue on, please.
Yeah. So it was overcoming that. And, we find our path, and we find that the people come into our path. So once you've gone through enough of the journey and searching, and I never gave up on getting the answer. And the last answer I got was, you're going to need surgery on your hip. And it just didn't sit well with me. And fortunately, I had a client who said her husband was a retired remedial therapist, and she explained to him what I'd gone through. And he'd said, that's BS. I will help her. I will fix her. And so when someone can say that definitively, I will help you, that instills confidence. And so it started this healing process with him working on me. I started to feel better, and he led me to a chiro in the end, and I was able to walk without pain, and I was healed. And then from that, I was like, oh my goodness, this man was able to heal me and teach me a lot of things in the process. And I want to return this 1,000-fold. Like I want to do what he's done for me to help return it to the universe and help others who are also seeking their answers. And thankfully, I can say today that I have helped thousands of people in the last decade heal. That I've been the last resort for many people that have said, it's your surgery. And so I've been able to return that, but I had to go through that process, even going through the process of identification of what was going on with me has been able to help me help other people who've come into my path. And then by becoming an accredited remedial therapist has been helped me to heal physically ailments that people had said there is no other, you're going to have to live with it. This is it. And I've been able to heal through that. And then that has extended into understanding and learning my own energetic healing abilities along the way. And, every obstacle that has come my way has only further heightened and equipped my tool belt to further assist and help and heal other people along the way. So it's been a massive learning journey, because every time something, quote, bad happens to me and you think, oh my goodness, here we go again, because then fast forward a little bit to 2018, where I've already been in the industry for 8 years, and I almost die of an anaphylactic reaction to food. And not junk food, mind you, Joey. It's just like
you weren't eating a candy bar with peanuts in it.
No, exactly. This was, what you wouldn't deem it to be a big deal. And that was almost my last breath. That was almost me done. And
I know all about anaphylaxis. My youngest son grew up with it. He's thus outgrown it over the years. He's 12 now, but from year one on his first birthdays when he had his first anaphylactic reaction, and we've had 3 or 4 of them over the years, where we've had to give him EpiPens, call ambulances, and that's, I feel for anybody who's suffering from those allergies that severely, because it's frightening, it's terrifying, for especially your children. I used to have fears like, what happens when he goes off to college and he's drinking and eats something at the, in the middle of the night and passes out and boom, and it's like, those were the irrational fears I used to create, out of nothing at all. But now he's grown out of it. I'm thankful. I'm grateful for that. But not to cut you off, I can relate with you on that aspect of it, because it really is. People don't understand food allergies, how severe they are. It's, oh, just have meat in another room. It's like, no, if my son would have even smelled peanut dust, he would have gone into allergic shock back in the day. So, yeah.
Yeah. It really caught me off guard. Like I said, I wasn't eating a junk food meal. I was just going out for dinner with friends. And then all of a sudden, boom, like that was almost it. And so that propelled me on another journey, a very long and frustrating journey, and a very isolating one, to be honest, because the magnitude of what I was going through was so grand, because everyone would just look at me like, you're a fit and healthy person. You have no problems. There's nothing here. We can't identify anything. And I'm like, we're here again. Like, I am telling you, I nearly, like, this is what happened to me. And they're not taking me seriously. They wouldn't even give me an EpiPen just in case. It was very, very frustrating. And so again, that I knew, like, I didn't go into, there was some fear, but I didn't go into, I wasn't angry. I was determined, because I knew that, again, this was going to be another opportunity for me to overcome so that I can help other people overcome. And so at that point in 2018, histamine intolerance and the extremity of the allergies I was dealing with was not spoken about, especially in Australia. We are, relatively behind in a lot of different things, and especially in our medical field, they wouldn't take me seriously enough. Even the food allergist that I went to go see, he was like, Ria, I don't even know why you avoid gluten. Like, there's no research papers to even justify that. And I was like, have you picked up a paper in the last 20 years? Like, what?
Right.
Is this a dream?
Have access to the internet? Yeah.
I was like, this is a dream. Like, this is a bad dream. So I'm like paying this guy $500 to tell me that you're okay. Maybe you should go seek some psychiatric. It's all in your head. Even though I had actual reaction in his office, like, I just could not believe what I was dealing with. And so that was quite a journey. I can say that probably went on for about 18 months, to be honest, to really heal and to get the answers and the resolve out of that. And so now, thankfully, again, is armored me with the tools to help other people going through what I had gone through, because I don't want anyone to feel as alone as I did. And histamine intolerance is very, very diverse, because it is in basically histamine releasing foods is in everything we eat. So in 98% of the food that I was eating, I had to stop eating.
Wow.
And figure out what the hell I can eat.
Yeah. When you
that wasn't going to kill me.
That's almost impossible sounding, but when you're pushed to that brink, it's like people who smoke all their lives and then they get diagnosed with emphysema or something like that. And it's like, okay, I can never touch that again, or I'll die or whatever, to extremes like that. So for you, it's like, what other choice did you have? You got 2% of your diet. It is what it is. You eat it or you risk the potentiality of death. So yeah, it's amazing what death will, the perception of death will do for us, right?
Yes. Well, yeah. What's the opposite of death? It's birth. So it's to birth something bigger and greater. And, that's what all of my lows have basically, in a nutshell, give birth to, so that was 2018, 2016. I almost decided I wasn't going to do what I was doing anymore, because it wasn't the fruitful profession that I thought it was going to be. Yeah. But, I had to make that massive investments in myself and take sacrifice to find the right mentor, to do what I had to travel, to learn, to do what I had to do, and that again propelled me into greater growth, personally and professionally. And then from this anaphylactic, I went to study my Bachelor of Health Science, because I'm like, if professionals don't know what's going on, then I need to become that professional to help the people know what's going on.
Yes, right.
So that was about an 18-month journey. And then, come to 2020, I've literally just come back from the States. So I came to the US. I had a magnificent trip there, beautiful conference, just great. 3 weeks over there. And we got shut down. So then I had to figure out, okay, I run an in-person brick and mortar business, and all of a sudden I don't have one. I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And then I came into online and letting people know who I am and what I do more, because prior to that, word of mouth was more than sufficient. And I didn't need to, in my opinion, be online. But then that whole year I was. And that was what got me known.
We all realized that we had to be online or we were going to just fade away, right?
Yeah. Like if people don't know you, they can't flow you. And I put myself out there for the greater good of helping other people and helping people reach me and find me to help them. And that's what led the people who gave me this award, came out of the blue, and they awarded me number one because of all of the different modalities that I teach. I even said, why me number one? Because, you've got acupuncture doctors, you've got all these other people like nutritionists and fitness people. And it's like, well, Ria, you have all of those things. You do all of those things. So that's why you were number one. So that was a great honor to cap off my 10 years at that stage. Last year was my 10 years being in this industry. So yeah, it was an honor for me to have that as the cherry on top.
Oh, what a reward. At the end of this journey, I had three main takeaways, I think, from everything from that whole journey, the last 10 years. It's one, you were a prime example of what so many of us experience with the failure of modern medicine and the inability to actually cure the dis-ease, not the disease, but the cause of that, the illness, that dis-ease that's within you, within all of us, your hip, your allergens, all of these things. I'm sure you were able and learned how to correct through proper nutrition and proper, health and wellness, which obviously you've grown into and became the number one in the country. The second thing is, I think it's amazing when we find that, when we're healed, when we find that person that helps us, that initial doctor that helped you heal back 10 years ago, it kind of started you on the journey to where you now wanted to share what you learned. And I think that's everybody, all of us, as we wake up, we have these, we learn from somebody, or we learn something that inspires us so much that it's just like a no-brainer. We want to teach what we learned. It's like, I have to share this with the world, right? And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. You found this calling, and your journey only helped build more of a fire. I was going to ask you, what was that driving force behind your transformation? And it sounds like that's exactly it. It's once you kind of learn the truth, you couldn't be put back to sleep, and you had to just scream it to the world. And then lockdown happens and you can't do anything. You can't teach anybody, and you pivot. That's the third thing. You pivoted from everything you were comfortable with, everything you knew, and you went on an entirely different direction, not knowing where it would take you. And you put that faith, that belief, that trust in the universe. It's going to protect you. It's going to take care of you when you're living your purpose, when you're speaking your truth, when you're moving in the right direction. Good things happen. So all that culminates, boom, you're the number one health and wellness coach in all of Australia for 2021. Amazing. I'm so proud of you. That's an awesome journey. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, that it seems like the highlight reel, really. But when you're living it, it's like it's day by day. And so not only was the remedial therapist who came to heal me, like it connected me to the only woman who I knew was my grandmother, who also had healing modalities, and she was the one that people called on to help heal their bodies. And so it tied me back to her, because I knew something deep inside me knew one day that would be something I would do. It was just brought to me when the time was right. And then that's when, so it's just beautiful how everything unfolds. And I've really learned to appreciate that as everything happens, after spending probably all of last month in the hospital for my father being unwell, I spoke to a lot of, medical doctors and things like that. And they would always turn around and say, "Are you in the medical field?" And I was like,
how do you know so much?
Oh yeah, I was like, I'm more in the preventative medicine space. I'm trying to avoid people from ending up here. And they're like, "Well, that's important." And I was like, "Well, yes,
oh, really?
I think
so. They actually agreed it was important. I figured
absolutely
they'd look down upon it, natural healing, natural remedies. I think it's becoming so much more mainstream as the truth gets out there. We've been lied to. We've been poisoned our entire lives. We've been being poisoned by the very same people that are claiming to protect us, claiming to be in our best interest. And all the while, they pulled the wool over us, and they've just been poisoning us, telling the doctors paying the doctors to keep prescribing the same things that are harming the population. We'll just give you a little bit more money, look the other way, or just we'll tell you what to think because it comes from this university. So group think, everybody say the same thing. I don't need to research it. I learned that in med school, and that's what they said about it in med school. And things are changing so fast, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, they're not bad people. The people that are in the hospital, they really, majority of them, I have to say, the 98% of the people who were looking after my dad were heart led. They were there for the right reasons. They gave him the best care. It's unfortunately a lot of the programming, and it's what they're led to believe. Some of the things that even came out of their mouth, I was like, where did you get that information from? That's not how it works. Like that. You should know this, and I think that's probably why they thought I was in the medical field, because I'm like, well, I'm trying to explain to them how how things work, because and in a nice way, I'm not trying to be argumentative or look down upon them. I'm just trying to say, just trying to give them an opportunity to think differently, because a lot of it is just what they're just brainwashed to this is the information, this is what you're supposed to regurgitate, and this is what you do. And I'm trying to, I like to plant seeds of thought with people. I never try to tell people or be above people. I try to explain or give them an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective, because then that gives them the opportunity to go, oh, maybe there is something else here that I need to look more into.
And that's the whole idea of science is based on questioning everything. Everything that we thought 100% definitive, before Columbus sailed across the ocean, it was definitive. You would fall off. You're not coming back. And lo and behold, the new world is discovered. All these things. The sun used to be the center of the universe. That was fact for how many years? I don't know, thousands maybe, until it wasn't. So, the idea of doctors just saying this is fact because this is what I was taught goes against the whole ideology of science, of medicine. It's okay, this is what's working. My mentor used to say, science is only the magic of today. What was magic 1,000 years ago was science. Nowadays, science is only the magic of today. So it's like things change, we evolve, we discover new things. So yeah, I applaud you for having the courage to make the medical industry question more, for sure.
I try. I think that's the beauty of what I like to call, I mean, they call that formal education, right? So I feel like I've gone through the school of informal education and self-guided or guided education, and everything that has been put upon me has given me what I needed to learn and equipped me with what I needed to learn to do
Right.
what I need to do. So
that's called the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, it's the best
school. You had to take the hits. You had to overcome the obstacles, which was the catalyst for you to grow, evolve, and learn. That was one of my questions. What was the catalyst? And it's obvious that the pursuit of wellness for you was the catalyst to what got you to where you are today.
Yeah. We are guided from the moment we're born. It's like it's just whether or not we identify it. Like my whole guidance into the fitness world was at 12 years old, where I was like, I was an athlete, I was athletic, I wanted to play sports, I wanted to be better at sports because I'm vertically challenged, so I'm like average height, and I'm wanting to play basketball and all these things. So I'm like, okay, I need to get strong. What do I need to do to get strong? Oh, I need to lift weights. This is cool. And I'm like, oh, I could actually transform my body and look really good by doing weights. Even better. Let's do that, and back then we didn't have the internet, and I'm showing my age a little bit, but like back then we didn't have the internet. So it was books and magazines and a lot of self-education on that. And because I wanted to build and I wanted to achieve that body. So that was the seed for me for becoming a coach in the first place in terms of the fitness industry, how to help other people build and transform their bodies to be their best. So it's all these little things, and then if we want to now overlay like the personal evolution, that personal dynamic, it's like how you and I met doing, crossing paths, like we're on the opposite sides of the world, and yet we met through, doing personal development and having quite profound experiences at that one event that we went to. And it's like, and so that took me right back to the little Ria that was, 2-3 years old, that had been quietened and had to conform to life. Whereas it took me back to her to be that inquisitive, friendly, playful, beautiful little girl that could just be whatever and do whatever she wanted to do. My mom used to always say, like, Ria, you're not like the other girls. Like, you beat to the drum of your own beat. And I was like, yes, I do. This is me, but when we come out of the shelter and protection of our parents, and then we see life and then things happen, it changes you. And it was quite stressful, like not knowing how to be and not being accepted for, being a half caste, right? So I'm half Filipino, half Italian. So in Australia, like back then, you look different. Who are you? Like, you're not blonde with blue eyes or Australian. It was a lot of diverse things that I had to go through, but that was. Now my understanding is that was my soul contract that I chose to go through to overcome all of these different dynamics, because that's what makes me so empathetic and understanding of people when they come to me, they could be twice my age, and they're like, how do you understand what I'm going through at your age? And I was like, because I've put myself through these things. That was the journey that I proposed to myself to overcome so that I can help other people. And that's personally and professionally. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Obviously belief has played a huge role in your success, in who you've become. You mentioned, I was looking at one of your posts you had online in terms of overcoming your demons. And in the post you mentioned, there was too much staring back at me, too much I hadn't dealt with. How important is the role of self-reflection in the healing process and overcoming those perceived demons, the self-limiting beliefs that are holding us back?
Yeah, that it's vital. It's literally our life force, because when I learned to go within, and I learned to reconnect to my source, that 2-year-old Ria versus the Ria I am today, and everything in between, and every version that led to that. That was true power. That was true empowerment. Looking into my own eyes was very uncomfortable for me for a long time. And we don't realize that thing. We look in the mirror, we fix our hair, we do what we do, but we're not really looking into our soul, taking time to look into our own soul. That's really profound. And doing the work of the Ho'oponopono, I can never pronounce it, and
Ho'oponopono, yes.
See, it's a tongue twister. But the practice of looking into your own eyes in the mirror and saying, "I'm sorry, I forgive. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you." And repeatedly looking into your own eyes and speaking to your soul and saying those words I brought tears to my eyes. It was so much love and forgiveness and honoring, and it really re-centered me back to me. And that was the start of when I could look in myself in the eyes and say, "I love you. Thank you." It was is power. That is power. And
absolutely.
Just the comfort of being, in love with yourself. I emceed an event a few years ago. It was probably more than that now, but they hadn't come up with questions for this pageant. I mean, pageants, they come up with questions, and I thought it was weird. They're like, "Here, create questions." I was like, okay. So I created some questions, and one of them was, what do you love most about yourself? What do you love most about yourself? And you would not believe how hard people found that to answer. Because even in my profession, I'll ask them, like, why are you here? What do you want to improve? And they'll just go, "Oh, I hate my thighs. I hate my stomach. I hate this. I hate my face." Like, everyone hates, like, they can tell you what they hate about themselves with not even a thought. And then you turn them around and you say, "What do you love about yourself?" And they're like, oh, gee, I've never really thought about that before. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you've gone your whole life not thought about what you loved about yourself? Surely there's got to be something. And they're just and so at this event,
amazing.
Like,
that
the woman who
so hard for people to, we've been programmed to see all the deficiencies, all the flaws that we think we have. But it's so hard because we don't take the time to reflect on how amazing we are and how amazing our life is and all the little things that add up into this beautiful existence. My dog jumped on me and laid on the couch this morning and just licked my face and loved on me. It's those little, just for instance, those little things that we don't even think about. We just focus on the terrible things and the bad things and the stressful things. And it's sad, really. It's sad that we as humans can't see that beauty for ourselves most of the time.
Yeah. Well, that's programming again at its finest. You and I both know that it's what we're conditioned in society to look at, all the things that are wrong and bad and the epitome of what we're supposed to be, especially as women. I feel like that's really pushed in our faces, the amount of makeup that we're expected to wear, et cetera, et cetera. So it is no surprise to me when someone comes and says, "I hate all this stuff. I don't know. I don't like anything," and it saddens me. It really does.
It does. And it's the Ho'oponopono, meditation is so powerful. I had this similar experience, but it's just the whole concept of forgiving ourselves, going back to that small little child that was just a beacon of love and joy and happiness. And over the years, it just gets squeezed out of us and we forget about it. We don't even remember that little child, when we're 15, 20, 50, 70 years old. It's just forgotten. And by being able to go back and forgive yourself, to see yourself as that little child, you said, looking into your eyes, into the soul, and just truly forgiving yourself and loving yourself. I think that's all we really want, right? Is to be loved and to feel appreciative or appreciated. So, I think that's so huge. Forgiveness and loving of oneself. That's a form of self-mastery, right?
And all the forms of oneself. I've been spending a lot more time at my parents' house, and there was a picture of me when I was 10 or 11 years old, and I looked at her, and someone asked me a question. They're like, oh, you look so different there. And I said, I didn't like me there. Like at that time of my life, I didn't like me very much. I didn't think that I was beautiful. I didn't think much of this version of me. And I stood up onto the couch to where that photo was, and I looked her in the eyes and I said, I love you. And, and that healed a part of me. So it's even bring, tears, because that version of Ria was hurting. And so I was able to stand up proudly on a couch and look her in the eyes and said, I love you. Like, you are beautiful. Don't think about any of that, because it's about healing all the different parts of ourselves, and that is self-mastery, and owning your emotions that come with that, because going through what we go through makes us who we are. And it's all our purpose. We're not I went through a lot of victim consciousness because I thought a lot of things happened to me, but they happened for me to be who I am today,
Beautiful, beautiful. And you're so sincere in what you say, the emotions come through with you. And, how important are those emotions? They say to hide your emotions. The programming tells us to hide our emotions and to stay strong. But I found it to be the exact opposite, of self-mastery is when you can experience those emotions, when you can feel them and truly face them. Because there's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of guilt, I would say, from looking at that picture of you, right? And once you were able to go back and forgive yourself, but how would you know to forgive yourself if you didn't feel those emotions in the first place? If you didn't have some sort of, I guess, regret? But that was, you said it perfectly. That was all part of your process. That was all part of becoming the empath that you are, the healer that you are. It's what role does emotions play in this process?
It's everything. Emotion is energy in motion. And that's why, when I work with people and they think that they're getting an exercise program and they're getting all this nutrition and things, and then we end up crying during the session, and it ends up being a coaching / therapy and healing, and all the different things that is necessary for their journey. I show up with whatever they need, and if that's emotion, crying, like I cry when I laugh hysterically, and I cry when I feel emotion. And it's diving into why we're triggered by certain things too. It's like, because you said emotion, and guilt and shame is a big one as well. And now I'm noticing, because my father passed away, and then there's it's a very interesting journey of observation when you see the people that come out of the woodworks and they're offering the condolences, and I'm observing. It's like I'm observing them in 5D, and I know you understand that, because I'm there, I'm living it, I'm experiencing it from their perspective, and I'm also observing it from every other, and I'm like, this is so fascinating. And what I see is you're just exuding guilt. They're exuding guilt. And they're trying to console me, but really they're trying to console themselves. And so it's like, it's super fascinating, because I was like, because they're just like, I'm really sorry. And I'm like, what are you really sorry about though? Because now my father's not suffering anymore, and we're at peace with that, as hard as that is. It's a double-edged sword, but all these people are coming with their stuff, and then it's realizing how people heal differently and how people deal with things differently. And some people need to show their love language by doing things for you. Ria, what can I do? Can I do something? Is there something I can do? And so I'm trying to find them things to do, because I know that that's their way to heal. So it's really, really interesting to observe, how people engage in life, and how they deal with things, and how they handle themselves emotionally and physically in motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We're all programmed in different ways. I think it's fascinating when you brought up the love languages there, how each one of us fits into such a perfect box, based on how we were programmed, and the obstacles, the things that have happened in our lives, mainly the traumas, how they shape, subconsciously what those love languages are. If, for instance, you had a bad relationship with your father, but he always would bring you gifts every Friday night. Maybe he was on the road all of his life, and he'd come home on Friday nights and he'd bring a gift. You may have hated the guy, but for whatever reason, subconsciously, you love getting gifts. It's the most important thing in your life. And it's so fascinating how the programming, our past actions and things that have happened to us, how they transform us in such ways that we just don't even realize it, on the surface. I love how you said you're already in the 5D, looking back. And I find myself doing that a lot as well. It's when we get to that point of no longer thinking about how it's affecting us or what we're feeling like, it's what are they feeling in response to me? That's a whole nother level. I would say your self-mastery is better than mine at that, it sounds like, because I still allow myself to get triggered. But what do they say? The awareness of it is what's most important. Will you make the same mistake 100 more times? Possibly. But if you're aware of it every time you're making it, you're that much closer to correcting it and removing it altogether, right? So
the triggers are important, though, I think, Joey. The triggers are important. When you say still allow yourself to be triggered, I do too. Like it's the awareness of it is so powerful. Especially like I said, now. I went from a place of flying a month before everything happened. So I was flying, and then this happened to my dad, and then I didn't crash and burn, but I experienced a low. So I flew, and then now it's propelled me to a higher platform in my spiritual growth, let's just say. And so I'm able to
flying in terms of like you were on a high. You weren't literally flying.
Literally flying. Like, I was astral traveling. I got
you. Yeah. You were resonating so much, like just exploding. And then it all had to contract on you, it sounds like.
Yeah. But there was a little voice in the back of my mind that says, because, when we think about duality and the existence of positive and negative, it's like, I knew I was flying so high, and I was like, something bad's going to happen, because I couldn't even pinpoint anything wrong in my life. Like, everything was perfect. Everything was fantastic. So much gratitude, so elated with life. And I'm like, something bad's going to happen. And, and it did. But, that was my part. This was all meant to happen, unfortunately. Unfortunately. So it's like, so it all happened. That happened. And then, like, being able to be where I am now, with my father's funeral being this weekend, it's like I'm observing all the different reactions, but then understanding that actually I need to be here to console other people and to help them heal through what is perceived as something that I need to heal from, which I will, and I am at the same time. So like I said, that's why I feel I'm in a really beautiful and strange place right now of experiencing everything and nothing and all. It's beautiful and bizarre.
I think it's amazing, your recognition, that you were sky high, that your energy, everything was good. Some would say you created that negative and it had to come back. It had like the rubber band. You recognized you were so far out, it had to come back in. And I think that's all part of this third density reality, that we still are living in a physical duality. There has to be that balance, but we're creating it from our own minds, right? All for that lesson to learn. So that recognition that you were way up high, knowing that it was going to snap back, that it just has to happen that way on this realm, right? But the knowing that it would snap back again, you'd be up, and it's kind of living with this, dealing with the up and down, up and down. I think as we evolve, we learn to stay higher longer, and we have less of those snapbacks. Wouldn't you agree?
Generally, yes. I mean, in reflection, I look back on this last 2 months, and I know that it had to happen. And I don't think that I created, obviously, what happened to my dad. I just think I was being prepared for it. The universe was preparing me to be as strong as I am throughout what's going on now, because prior to that, I think that's, because my dad was my idol. He's my superhero. And so if I didn't have preparation, both spiritual and then that whole month of him being in hospital, I would have crashed and burned truly. It would have hit me really, really hard. But I was able to deal in the process. It's sort of like masterful ninja Jedi. And that's why I say it's so beautiful and bizarre to be in a place where, like, I'm experiencing sadness and all these different emotions all at once, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, I'm honored to be able to say that I've experienced that, and I know that this had to happen in order for me now. And, like, look at the timing, the Reality Practice Network, right? So what am I teaching? Self-mastery, soul path to self-mastery. So what have I just gone through? The biggest challenge of my life, the biggest high of my life to the biggest low of my life, all in the span of 2 months, to propel me to a place where I'm going to be able to help guide other people along their paths to self-mastery. So it's all just beautiful, divine, meant to be. Here I am.
I agree. There are no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. And, the awareness that you have on your journey at this point is really phenomenal. Just listening to your story on it, it's mind blowing, because most people would have broke because of what you just went through and what you're going through, and your ability and your self-mastery, the ability to control your thoughts is so key in this process. And you're doing just a phenomenal job. And I hope that everybody watching, can get just a glimpse of what you're capable of and what you bring to the table. It's really, there's a wealth of wisdom in such a young soul, or a young physical incarnation. Our souls are all, old as can be, but
yes.
We could keep going for much longer, I know, and get into energy modalities, kind of break down even more what you do, but we're getting close to the end of the hour here. So I want to just go ahead and wrap it up now. It's been a phenomenal interview. I thank you so much for coming on. I want to ask you the last question that I ask everybody before that comes on the show. And since this show is all about creating your own reality, if I could snap my fingers, which I will do in a second, when I snap my fingers, if you could be transported to any reality of your dreams, what would it be and why?
I'm in it. I wouldn't change a thing. And to be able to say that before I'm about to lay my dad to rest in a few days, I wouldn't go anywhere.
I love it.
Because my first thought was, let me go to the future and then I'm this ascension master and everything's amazing and glorious. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't deserve that yet. I'm not there yet. I'm here now, and I'm really proud of where I am right now.
I love it. And, I think I get about 1 out of every 4 guests that come on the show. They say right now they wouldn't change a thing. And I think it's amazing because for you guys, you're living in that present, you're living in your fantasy right now, and you're able to see past the perception of, the obstacles of it's all being done for us. And I think it's just beautiful, when we can just sit back enjoy where we're at, knowing that this is all part of the magical ride, knowing that we're all going to end up in heaven, in whatever we foresee that as, we're all going there. We all just take different paths. So really beautiful. I can't wait for your show to premiere on the Reality Practice Network. I'm so honored and privileged to have you as one of the hosts, one of the guides. I can't wait for people to learn from you and to follow you and really get to know you. So thank you, for coming on the show today, and thank you for coming on the Reality Practice Network. We're going to make a difference in the world, and I truly appreciate you.
Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure, and I look forward to this journey ahead. I really do.
You got it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching the show today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an episode from the Reality Practice Network. And until next time, my friends, stay blessed, and remember to always ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today? Bye now. Hey everyone, it's Joey again. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the show. Please make sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. We'd love to hear your comments too. And if you haven't already, please make sure to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell to never miss an episode from the Reality Practice Network. As I mentioned before the show, I wanted to extend an exclusive offer to you, the viewers of the Reality Practice Network. For all of you watching this video, you're undoubtedly experiencing an awakening and are searching for more explanation into the experiences you're having. Now is the time to explore who and what you truly are. For a limited time, you can now work one-on-one with your show host. Click the link in the description box below to start your journey, or learn more by going to MyRealityPractice.com/ascension and let your ascension begin. And remember to ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today?